How's it going, guys? CheesyCats here, and welcome to my overview on the November roadmap. There's a ton of new content that we'll be covering up until March 2023, from new cities to new arena champions to the long-awaited Tower of Trials and Ultimate skills. Unlike in my last roadmap overview back in August, where we went patch by patch, we'll be taking a look at each of the sections one by one, starting with the new stories and towns, then moving on to the Nameless town content, and then arena, etc. As usual, timestamps will be put in the description so that you can quickly find the sections you need. Let's get started. First up, we have the new main story chapters and their associated locations. Starting with today's patch and just about every month afterwards, a new story chapter and a new location will be released. Here's what the schedule looks like. Today's patch in mid-November includes Bestower of Wealth Chapter 2, and introduces the new town in the Sunlands, Sufratalja, and with it, the level 64 Twilight Equipment series, which specializes in extra HP. In mid-December, they will be adding Bestower of Power Chapter 2, which takes place in the bustling market city of Gramport, which you might remember from the original Octopath Traveler. With this city, the level 65 Adamant Equipment series will also be added, which specializes in extra attack. Following that in mid-January is Bestower of Fame Chapter 2, which actually takes place in two separate locations. The first part of the chapter brings us to the city of Atlasdom, where Cyrus is employed at the Royal Academy in the original Octopath Traveler. Maybe they'll have released Cyrus by then. Who knows? The second part of the chapter will return to Flamesgrace and allows accessing new areas, which also includes a 200,000 EXP Kate Elite enemy, which respawns every day. Be sure to defeat this Kate daily for lots of free EXP. With the town of Atlasdom comes another new equipment series, the level 66 Atlas Equipment, appropriately named. This weapon series focuses on extra magic stat. Shortly after the release of Bestower of Fame Chapter 2 are two more back-to-back patches with new locations and thus new equipment series. Yes, I know this is an extremely fast release schedule, and you guys won't really have very much time in between them to actually farm for the new weapons and armor. But I'm just a YouTuber, and unfortunately this is not anything under my control. Anyways, the 1.6.1 patch introduces a side story that brings us to a town in the far west of the Clifflands called Ichirlo. This area brings with it the level 67 Ma Dan equipment series, which specializes in additional crit similar to the Tyrannical series. Finally, in 1.7.0 at the beginning of March, is Bestower of Wealth Chapter 3, the first Chapter 3 available for the Bestower series. While this chapter does not introduce a new town, it does introduce a new dungeon in which you can farm for materials for the level 68 Origin weapon series. Just like the Twilight weapons, this equipment series focuses on extra HP and is also forged in Sufratalja. Next, let's take a look at the upcoming changes to the Nameless town. On the current patch, the Alpaca farm has been added, which is basically just Sheep Farm 2.0. In order to unlock it, there are multiple steps you need to go through. The first step is finding the Alpaca Girl outside of Kragspear. With 400 memory fragments, purchase the Alpaca Farm blueprints in the exchange and bring the Alpaca Girl to the Nameless town. At this point, you will only have one alpaca and there are two more to go. The second alpaca can be found on the riverbank near Clearbrook. In addition to corralling this alpaca, you will need 500 more memory fragments to purchase 5 fences from the exchange. The final alpaca is found in a part of Shepherd's Rock that you might not know about. This house north of the inn has a secret door to the left that you can use to access the sheep farm behind the house. It's here that you'll find the elusive third alpaca. For this step, you'll need 1,000 memory fragments to purchase 10 more fences from the exchange, and the alpaca farm will be complete. The alpaca can drop various types of wool that can be sold at the shop for leaves, or exchanged for additional memory fragments, just like sheep wool. Additionally, the Alpaca Girl can be fought alongside her alpacas for additional rewards. Her difficulty level is around level 50, but since you'll need to be able to access Shepherd's Rock anyway to get the final alpaca, level 50 fights should be fairly manageable. In December, the Nameless town will be receiving not one, but 2 updates. The first is the long-awaited Tavern, which will finally allow players to reset their reputation in the Nameless town. In order to unlock the Tavern, you need to first recruit the bartender in Sunshade, and then it will require 300 memory fragments for Tavern blueprints, as well as 2 sturdy wood from an enemy in the field to the east. So be sure to save 2 of those coming into this update. Additionally, there will be an NPC in the tavern itself that you can interact with to purchase items for several million leaves that can be traded in for extra memory shards. The 3 items cost 1.3 million, 6.5 million, and 20 million leaves respectively, but they can be purchased at a bargain as well. After buying them, they will reset in 20 hours just like other renewable path actions, and they can be exchanged for 20, 100, and 30 memory shards respectively. If you're looking for a place to dump all your extra leaves, this is one of the places to do so. The other new update is item gathering, or as I like to call it, the errand boy. For the small price of around 70,000 leaves per day, the errand boy will collect all of your Nameless Town dailies in an instant, including beating the 4 enemies out in the field. This process even counts towards the dailies for path actions completed and enemies defeated, making it an absolute no-brainer. It's kind of funny that they released the Tavern at the same time as the Errand Boy in English, because you won't really need to reset your reputation in the Nameless Town anymore. The final update on the roadmap is the Nut Garden update. If I'm not mistaken, you guys are 2 updates away from finishing the Nut Garden completely, so it seems like the final 2 steps will be in this update. The first step requires talking to a new NPC in each Ichirlo for some notes, as well as purchasing 2 fertilizer from the exchange for 400 memory fragments. The second step requires 600 fragments for 3 more fertilizer. Once you've finished all of the upgrade steps, the nut farm will be able to drop a 500k EXP nut as the normal reward, and 5, that's right, 5 1 million EXP nuts as the rare drop. You guys have been asking for more ways to gain EXP, so definitely look out for this update. Moving on next, we have the arenas. These arenas are really getting fired out at a rapid pace, which in my opinion is just a bit concerning, especially the Yanlong Cup in March. But let's just take a look at each of these one by one first. Coming up next is the Ritu Cup. In JP, it was spelled like this, which was honestly a bit weird considering how it's pronounced, so I honestly like this spelling better. Anyways, Ritu is a lightning thief who specializes in dealing lots of damage. She has multi-attack shield crack, AoE shield crack, a powerful nuke, and a pretty useful passive that always gives her 1 additional hit whenever she uses her normal attacks. After that, at the beginning of January, is the Gertrude Cup. Gertrude can basically be described in one word: Chad. She is an absolute beast of an apothecary, and she's not afraid to throw down with you in the arena all by herself. If you can best her in battle, she's pretty much the best axe nuker you could ask for, able to deal tons of damage. In February is the Uni Cup. Uni is one of my personal favorite arena champions, and her fight in the arena can be your worst nightmare if you're unprepared. Without spoiling too much about her fight, Uni is a hunter who specializes in 2 things: inflicting a lot of status conditions, and calling in her fellow mercenaries for a helping hand. Make of that what you will. Finally, in March is the Yanlong Cup. In the JP side of the game, Yanlong was introduced after a 3-month or so break after Uni, and he was a significant step above her in difficulty, which is why I'm very surprised that they're releasing him so soon in English. Despite being a cleric, Yanlong is much more of a monk, specializing in dealing lots of physical damage. He's got a lot of interesting tricks up his sleeve in his arena fight that I'm sure will surprise you guys, so look forward to this fight if you're looking for a challenge. Finally, we have the other section of the roadmap, so we'll start with the half-year anniversary patch in January. Wow, we're already approaching the half anniversary, huh? On this patch, we will be introduced to the long-awaited Tower of Trials, which wasn't released in JP until the first anniversary 1 year into the game. This is a multi-floor tower that constantly gets harder the higher up you go. According to the roadmap, they will be implementing some of the floors upon the release of the tower and adding further floors later on, just like they did in JP. There are a total of 100 floors, and I'm expecting the first 50 to be added upon the release. You get an allowance of 10 fights per week, which can be replenished with consumable items. The rewards for fighting in this tower are materials needed to unlock characters' ultimate skills, previously referred to on this channel as specials. I'm going to have a much more in-depth video on ultimate skills closer to when the update actually drops, so keep on the lookout for that when the time comes. One more small update alongside the Tower of Trials will be a small garden in the northwest corner of the Nameless Town. You can advance this garden by fighting in the Tower of Trials and completing specific quests on each floor, which will give you seeds to plant in the garden. The rewards in the garden itself will be more materials that you can use for learning and leveling up ultimate skills, which can be collected daily in a similar way to the nuts in the nut farm. But let's be real, the errand boy will just be collecting these. Soon after the release of the Tower of Trials will be the Tower of Veterans. In this tower, you can face off against the battle-tested NPCs, but with a twist. Instead of fighting them one-on-one like you do in the regular fights, Some of the fights at the top of this tower will have you going against 2 or even 3 of them at once, so bring your A game. Finally, at the very bottom of the roadmap, we have a small question mark section. Normally, I'd have no idea what this is, but I do see the Hunter Kate chilling right next to it, which leads me to believe that this unknown section is actually the release of the first Job Tower. The Job Towers are a group of high-level towers in which you can only use a single class at a time. For example, the first Job Tower released in JP, and the one you're looking at right now, was the Warrior Tower, where you were only allowed to use warriors. From these Job Towers, you can get various rewards such as Sacred Seals for upgrading your 4.5 star characters, Awakening Stones for arena champions that correspond to the job of that tower, as well as the grand prize for clearing the entire tower, a 30% damage up accessory in that weapon type. The Job Towers operate on a 3 weeks active, 1 week inactive system, and all of the rewards, except for the damage up accessory, will reset every time the tower becomes active again, allowing you to essentially get 1 Sacred Seal every single month, as long as you can defeat enough floors to grab it. Alright, that was a lot to look at, but that sums up my overview for the November 2022 roadmap. Since it is Thanksgiving in the States right now, the next few videos, overviews for Therian and Liana, among other things, will be coming a bit later, so thank you in advance for your patience. If you're also in the States, hope you have a happy Thanksgiving yourself, and until next time, this has been Shizakats. See ya!